In our last episode of the PC Build Up Challenge, we restored a pretty ugly gaming PC and we turned it into an absolute beast of a gaming system that we were able to sell for a profit. Now, I did ask you guys how much I should sell that system for, and the average that you guys came up with was $700. So that is exactly what I listed that PC for, and wouldn't you know it, we sold that PC for $700. Now, if you have been following along with the series, which you should, it's a pretty awesome series, you'll know that we had $877 left in our bank after we put together that system. And because we were able to sell that system for $700, we now have $1,577 in our bankroll to build our next PC, which I'm gonna show you right now. It's really awesome. Why do I do this to myself? So I am convinced that 99.8% of America would have looked at this listing and said, hell no. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened, because he had it originally listed for $600 and no one on earth was gonna pay $600 for this thing. Now, he dropped the price down all the way to $200 and I offered him $100 and he said to come and get it. I'm gonna move this over here so that I can talk to you guys. Now, the only reason that I entertained the idea of spending $100 of the challenge's money on this pile of what's probably e-waste is the fact that there is an MSI graphics card. And if you looked really closely in the listing, you can see that that board right there is an AsRock Z590 board. So that means that there is a possibility that there is an Intel 9th or 10th generation chip underneath what is an AIO attached with house screws. I love when people do that. It lets me know that they didn't know what they were doing. Now, we also get one stick of Corsair Vengeance, 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM here, and we get an NVMe. There is a 250 gig NVMe here. So, oh, and a Thermaltake Smart 700 watt power supply. I know nobody really likes those power supplies, but we do get a power supply. So realistically, we have an entire PC and we got it for $100. And there's a strong possibility that none of it works. But here's the thing, we don't know it doesn't work. And this is actually a 1660 Super graphics card. So realistically, I can just sell this for $100 and I can get all of our money back. So I don't think that we're in too much trouble. I mean, as long as this card works. For all I know, this card doesn't work at all. But what we need to do right now is see if this thing works. I'm gonna go get a monitor. So I'm not gonna take all the hardware off this completely destroyed case. Like, I don't even know, I mean, I'm literally just throwing out trash for this guy because this is unusable. But I'm just gonna keep the board up here and we're gonna see what we can't get done. We just gotta plug this power supply up to it. That's our RAM. The RAM's in. We don't need the NVMe, it's too small anyways. AIO's in, CPU power's in. Honestly, I think that's it. I'm almost positive that this isn't gonna work, and all of the footage that I just filmed is gonna go straight into the trash because I'm gonna have to throw this whole thing away. But if we're lucky, we at least get a post. Maybe there's probably not even a CPU underneath this thing. They clearly didn't know what they were doing, so it would make sense to me that they didn't even know that they needed a CPU. Now, one thing I'm finding when I'm looking through this thing, I don't know what this thing is. I got no idea. It doesn't seem to connect to anything, and it's just got a couple caps on it. I don't know what this is. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me what this is used for. All right, so because I need to plug in the power supply, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug my RGB. So if there isn't a pretty blue light in this section, I do apologize. Oh, almost forgot to plug in the graphics card here. Oh, hold on, I gotta stabilize this board. There we go, okay. So everything, CPU power, motherboard power, graphics card's got power, everything's connected. All right, so let's see. Let's turn the switch. Ooh, the motherboard lights up. That's a good sign. We got RGB on the motherboard. All right, everybody, I'm gonna need you at home to cross your fingers that this thing doesn't just catch fire, because, I mean, it could, we don't know. There we go. All right, GPU spinning. AIO fan is spinning. No RGB on the AIO. Do we just get a post? No way. Oh my God, I can't believe this works. Oh my gosh, what do we got? Dude, we got a 10700F? We got an i7 in this thing. Dude, what a find. What a find. We can build a super awesome gaming PC with this. All right, so obviously we have a functional system. It needs a lot of work and it needs a lot of love. And I don't have all of the parts that I'm gonna need to, rebuild this thing, because we can't keep this case. I need to get a case. I need to get a couple things, because as it stands, it's just not gonna work. A 10700F, a 1660 Super, not gonna cut it. We got some things we need to do. So it's gonna feel instant for you, but it's gonna be a few days for me. So I'll see you in a minute. All right, the disaster is coming back out. Really excited to get started on this thing. The hardware that I found for this system, oh, chef's kiss. This PC is going to look phenomenal when we are done with it. It's absolute crap right now. It's not gonna stay like that. Now, before we get this party rolling, I did need to remind all of you lovely people at home that this is the PC Build Up Challenge, where we build and sell gaming PCs so that we can sell them for a profit, and then we save those funds to eventually get to the point where we can build an extremely beautiful and an extremely powerful gaming PC that I give away to one of you lucky subscribers. And seeing as how we are getting up there in funds, we're getting closer and closer to building your system. So I did need to remind you that if you wanted to make sure that you are entered to win the gaming PC that we are working so hard towards, you're gonna need to make sure that you are a member of the PC Rehab Discord server. I'm gonna add a link to join that server in the description down below. It is 100% free, and you will be amongst all of the like-minded PC enthusiasts that follow this channel. Now let me show you what we have in store for this disaster. Oh, come on, man, I can't even see you guys anymore. Perfect. Now, our absolute disaster over here is getting a complete overhaul. Realistically, we're only keeping the motherboard, the CPU, and the RAM, because that's really all that is worthwhile from the system. Now, I'm not hating on a 1660 Super, but I don't want that graphics card, and neither do most people who buy gaming PCs that are expensive. They're not looking for 1660 Supers, they're looking for more higher end systems so that they can play the current games that are out right now. So the 1660 Super we're gonna put back on Marketplace, and we're gonna try to get $100 for that graphics card, and the 700 watt Thermaltake Smart Power Supply. When it comes to higher end gaming systems, I don't want to use the Thermaltake Smart Series. Now, if it was a cheap PC, like a $300, $400 build, sure, I wouldn't have such a problem putting that in there. But we're gonna go with something a little bit beefier, because I did pick up a 3080 for this system. That's right, a 3080. This thing's gonna be a monster, and you won't believe the deal I got on this 3080. Just wait, and I have the receipts. Now, I could go over all of this hardware here, or we can skip to the montage where we put this entire system together, which we all know that's everyone's favorite part of this series. Anyway, so let's get that started right now. moment to pay tribute to some items that are not going to be making it into today's build. Items like a handful of bolts and house screws that had no business being in a motherboard. Or this super furry RGB fan, whatever this pink cable is. Our Thermaltake Smart 100 power supply. And the absolute saddest NZXT case that there has ever been. Dude, what is that? What is that? Is that an iPhone screen? Okay, we also get a shattered front screen for an iPhone. Gifts just keep on coming. I gotta get this thing out of here. It is so gross. Now, as far as this power supply is concerned, like I said earlier, I don't mind using these in very cheap builds, but when you get to higher power components, I really don't want to use these. So we're gonna save this. It'll just be a little bit of money off of, you know, a build that we do in the future. Oh, and something fun to tell you is that today, as I'm recording this video at 5:30, I have to meet somebody about 15 minutes down the road so that I can sell the 1660 Super that was in the original pile of e-waste that we bought for $100, and I'm selling that card for $100, meaning all of that cost me absolutely nothing. So I am extremely happy that we were able to salvage that big pile of e-waste, because that motherboard, CPU, and RAM, they're thriving in this build. This thing is an absolute beast. Now, I will say the top M.2 slot that I had originally had the NVMe plugged into, it doesn't work. It's not a CPU issue. It's got to be some kind of damage to the motherboard, which I can understand that no one was taking care of that motherboard at all, but the second and third M.2 slots are working just fine. So I moved the M.2 or the NVMe to a secondary slot, and off to the races we went. And for everything else that we didn't use, there is an e-waste place not too far from here. I will be taking all of that stuff over there so that we can be recycled the proper way, because e-waste is such a terrible issue these days. Now, don't go running anywhere, because we still need to figure out how much it cost us to put this system together, plus where we stand in total funds to build your PC, and I'm gonna need your help deciding on what the list price for this system should be. But before we can get into the financial side of the series, we do need to see just how powerful the system that we built is, because that is going to play a huge role in determining just how much money we're going to list this PC for. So I tested a few games, and when I say a few games, I tested some very demanding games. And I did all of the gameplay testing at 1440p because it's a 3080. We should absolutely be testing this card at 1440p. So, to start us off, I played a little bit of Hogwarts Legacy. Now, this game is getting up there in years, but it is still a very demanding game. And with settings set to ultra and ray tracing turned on to medium, we were getting a stunning 85 average FPS. Now, testing out a little bit of God of War Ragnarok, because it's absolutely my favorite game right now. At max settings, we're getting an average of 97 sweet frames per second. In Space Marine 2, also with our settings set to max, this beast was cranking out a solid 77 FPS. And for our last test, I played Wukong for about 3 hours, loving every single second of that game and the 72 FPS average we were getting at very high settings and ray tracing set to low. Now, before I address the financial stuff, I did want to say something about the CPU in this system. I am completely aware that it does not need a 360mm AIO. It definitely doesn't need one running a push-pull configuration, because a 10700F is not going to get hot enough to need that. But we're flipping PCs, and at least it's got to be 50% of what sells these computers on Facebook Marketplace is how good the system looks alongside of how well the system performs. And running the push-pull configuration on this AIO pushed the AIO down, making the case look like it's more compact, full of gear. I really like this look. Now, you may disagree, you might like it to be a little bit more open, but what I didn't want to see was the back ports in the back here. They don't have rubber grommeting, and they don't really look all that great, and I wanted to decrease the amount of wires you see. And when you add 3 additional fans on top of the radiator for the AIO, it pushes that down, hiding a lot of all of those wires and stuff like that. And I like it. You tell me if you disagree, but I think it looks pretty darn good. So now let's talk about how much money it cost the series to build this beautiful thing right here. Let me grab my phone because this is where I keep all of my notes. So the original pile of e-waste that we purchased from that gentleman on Facebook Marketplace was $100. But in about an hour and a half, I am leaving here to go sell the 1660 Super that came with that pile of e-waste for $100. So we're at $0 spent, and that's covering the motherboard, the CPU, and the 1 stick of RAM. Now, for everything else for the build, I'm talking about the case, the riser cable, the SSD, the additional stick of RAM, AIO, power supply, all of that cost me $356 for those parts. So total $356 so far. Now, the graphics card, which is absolutely the creme de la creme of this build, and which will help sell this system, the 3080 that I got was for $300. Now, I had found somebody on Facebook Marketplace who was selling this 3080, and it was inside of a ASUS pre-built, and I convinced him to take the card out and just sell me the card for $300, which I think is a great deal. Now, a couple months ago, that wouldn't have been as crazy of a deal, but since the GPU market is terrible right now, currently, 3080s have gone up in price. So to get one for $300, I think is an absolute steal. So that brings the total build cost for this system to only $656. I gotta say, $656 for a system that looks and performs like this, awesome. Such an awesome deal. Now, inevitably, somebody out there is gonna disagree with the fact that I kept the i7 and didn't upgrade to an i9, or I bought too expensive of a case and I could have got it done for cheaper. I should have bought an air cooler instead of an AIO. I get it. There's 100 different ways that I could have done this, but I think that this looks great. And to be completely honest, I mean, I would rather get it in, get it built, make sure it runs right, sell this thing, and get this thing on somebody else's desk so that they can appreciate it and have an absolute blast playing on the system. So where does that put us in total bank funds for the challenge to build the gaming PC that we're going to be putting on one of your desks? Well, before we started anything, I told you that we had $877 in our bank, but we did sell our last episode's PC for $700, putting us at a grand total of $1,577 to build your system. But after we deduct the cost of what it took to build this system right here, we're sitting at $921 in our bank. But I think we can sell this system for quite a bit of money, which will bring our bank total way back up. But now that we're talking about selling this system, I need your help deciding how much we're gonna list this PC for. Now, me personally, I'm thinking of a list price of maybe $1,300 for this system, but it could be more based off of the lack of good graphics cards out there. This system might actually sell for more. So what do you think we should list this system for? Go in the comment section down below and let me know. I take all of them into consideration. I come up with an average price that you guys have suggested, and then that's what I list the system for. And hopefully this computer will sell before the next episode. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fans of the PC Rehab, if you are new here and you had at least a little bit of fun here with me today, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well as smashing that like button. It does wonders in helping my small channel grow and have all of the YouTube glory and success imaginable. And to all of my channel members, I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for your support on the channel, and everybody else. No matter where you are in the world, I hope that you are having the most fantastic day, and I'm gonna see you right here for the next episode.